alert. We got a code red nerd alert at SDS man's house. Please, will the police please get this guy a fucking life? No. What up, everyone? How's it going? I am going to be talking about cartoons. It's what I love to do. This is going to be uploaded to YouTube, so if you're watching this from YouTube, hello. I first streamed this on Twitch, just like all my content that I post on YouTube, which is not that much compared to how much stuff's on my Twitch. So make sure to go to the description, check out my Twitch. It's the same as my YouTube name, that is. And I do a lot of stuff there, and including this, where I talk about stuff cool, and I do live streams. This is like actual live streams. This is like a discussion. I've been doing these more and more because I kind of want to create content for my YouTube channel, and I just like having discussions. And I don't get to talk about this stuff, during my live streams because I'm either focused on the game or the podcast that is going on. So, that's why. All right, that's why. All right, talking about cartoons, specifically 8 of them, and specifically which ones are my favorite of the 2010s, which is 2010s, which is going on right now. It's 2010 until now. This is not like my final list because obviously the 2010s are not over. Also, to make it on this list, it's very simple. It has to be a children's cartoon. So, that obviously means it has to be aimed at children to some degree. That's the reason why Rick and Morty won't be on this list, or BoJack Horseman, or Bob's Burgers, or many other adult shows that I really, really enjoy. Will not be on this list because that's its own list. It's really hard for me to talk about Rick and Morty and then talk about a cartoon specifically aimed at children. I'm not saying that they both don't have their artistic talents, and honestly, Rick and Morty probably wouldn't even be my favorite cartoon if it was on this list. I talk about it a lot and I love it, but it probably wouldn't even be on this list. But I'm just focusing on children's cartoons and of the 2010s, so the more recent ones. And with that, how it has to fall is it means this aired in the 2010s, but it started airing in the 2010s, and it could either have ended or it could still be on air. A lot of these shows, well, actually, only 3 of these shows. Actually, only it gets muddy. If 2 of these shows are ending, so really there's only like 2 or 3 of these shows still on air. I mean, I guess a lot of them are, but a lot of them have either ended or about to end pretty soon. And yeah, so like if a show started in 2007, 2008, obviously it's not going to be on here, and that's all it really means. All these shows starred during the year 2010 or after, because I feel like this is a new era of cartoons and one of the best ever for children's cartoons. So there's so many good shows and I love them. And you're probably like, why 8, you piece of shit? And it's because it's why it is. All right, it is. I was originally going to be 10, but the 2 that I included to make 9 and 10, I don't like enough to put. Like I don't like there's a lot of the ones that I like, and a lot of cartoons I like, but I put them on here and I felt like they're not my favorite. Like I enjoy them, and I guess technically speaking they'd be in my top 10, but I feel like if I put a cartoon on this list, it means I really, really enjoy it, at least during this era. And I feel like if I put it on there, it would kind of be like as if saying it's one of my favorites. And honestly, like the 2 I put on there were I think were all right and okay, but weren't really great. So I just decided to do my 8 favorite children's cartoons. Fuck you, fight me. Also, tell me how I'm wrong and tell me how I'm right. Share your opinion, because my opinion is only mine, and I just share it because I can. And you should share yours too. So tell me, be like, hey, fuckface, this is why, Donkey Kong, the Donkey Kong cartoon is the best cartoon ever made, and I'll agree with you, because it is. Let's not even joke. All right. So basically, I'm just going to talk, I'm going to go from 8 to 1. As we go along, I'll talk about it more and more. Like, I'll talk more about number 3, then I'll talk about, like, number 6, or so example. Like, number 1 I'll talk about the most, probably. But I'll just go through and share my thoughts and why it's my favorite and why I think it's important. So we're going to start off with number 8. So this is actually an online series. It's officially aired on television, but it's on a bunch of streaming services, and it is a children's cartoon. And this one barely made the list. Like, honestly, like, it barely made the list. I'm not saying I don't enjoy it, but it barely made the list. But I like it a lot. And it's Bravest Warriors. I do enjoy Bravest Warriors. I think made by Pelton Ward, the same creator of Adventure Time. I think Bravest Warriors is a pretty decent show. I wouldn't say it's anything spectacular. And in my mind, like, it's not like every episode is this like phenomenal episode. I just think of like a good like 5 or 6 episodes that really stick out in my mind. And this show could argue, it could be argued whether or not this is a kid show, because it just definitely has adult sort of themes and jokes in it all the time. But I would say this classifies as a kid show, because it's definitely aimed towards kids, to at least some, you know, to a degree. To a degree, it definitely is aimed towards kids. But no, I really enjoy this. I really enjoy Bravest Warriors. I think it's a pretty damn good show. I don't really have too much to say. I mean, there's a lot of episodes that really stick out in my mind. One of them is the one, I can't remember the name of the episode, that they land on a planet and there's that crazy old man. That one sticks in my mind as being one of the best ones. I believe that's season 2. I believe some of the earlier ones too, like the one where they create like their own world, and like it's an auto-generated world, and they kind of explore the characters' relationships through that. I really enjoy that episode. I think it's season 2, episode 1. I can't really describe it, but that episode also sticks out in my head. There's like, you know, like I have to go and rethink it, but when I was making this list, Bravest Warriors was one that was like, I was like, should I put this on the list? And I ultimately decided to, because I do think it's a very, you know, it's an important show, and it has a lot of my favorite content creators' involvement in there, whether it be their voice acting, their animation, or their, you know, direction. But either or, the show's still going on. I'm not caught up with this show, so maybe if I was caught up with it, it wouldn't be on this list, or maybe even be higher. I don't know. I'm probably gonna catch up with it eventually, but I do really enjoy this show, and I definitely wanted to put it on. So don't hate me too much, all right? Fuck you. All right, move on to the next one, number 7. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about that one, and this one I don't really have too much to say either. But I think this is objectively, maybe not objectively, but at least like technically, a really really good show, and that's Young Justice. I love Young Justice. This is probably like my favorite like superhero show, honestly. Like of the, well, probably my favorite superhero show since like Teen Titans, or like Batman the Animated Series. Those are the two that really stick out in my head. I really enjoy this show. It had a short run, but then it has recently been brought back brought back on air, or I think it's streamed. I'm not sure. I gotta look into that. But either way, it did get canceled, which it had only 2 seasons, which was like insane, because this show is like incredibly good, but it's just like not popular. Not many people know of this show, and that's a shame, because this show deals with a lot of like this show is like I mean, this is also, I'd say, a kid show, but it could be argued if this is not one or not, because this one definitely has a lot of adult themes in it, and definitely I think is more. I think there's a reason why this isn't popular, because I don't think kids can really enjoy this that much. I mean, I guess a kid could enjoy this if they like the characters, but I feel like this is definitely aimed at a you know, young adult audience, and I love it for that. And it takes itself seriously, and it has really really interesting themes and characters, and the animation is beautiful. And yeah, it's a shame that the show ended early, but it's also it got brought back, and thank God it did. But I don't really have too much to say about this. If you haven't seen the show, go watch it. I don't think I think it's technically really good. It's not my favorite by any means, but I think technically, and I do like it a lot, but I think technically this is one of the better shows of this decade. All right, number 6. Now these shows I have a little more to talk about. Those two I had a little less. As we go on, I'll have more to talk about that. Talk about it. This one is one that that for some people you might be shocked this isn't higher. This is only at number 6, and you might be like, wow, that's crazy. That's Adventure Time. I love Adventure Time. Well, I loved Adventure Time / didn't love it, and now kind of love it. I have a weird relationship with this show. All right, that's all I gotta say. But no. So how do I feel about that? Well, all right. So I put this at number 6, and honestly, this might even be a little more generous. But this show is what kicked off this show. This list wouldn't exist without this show. I wouldn't be talking about my favorite cartoons of the 2010s, because this show is what kind of started that. This came out in May of 2010, very very early 2010, barely made the line. And this show came out and really started the next generation of cartoons. It inspired so many cartoons. I mean, I bet you, like, if you think of your favorite cartoons of this generation, probably not on here. Probably not on here if this show didn't exist. Like, it wouldn't exist. So this show really has to be thanked for a lot. But I think overall this show, I mean, as a show, if you take where, I mean, the last episodes haven't aired yet, but if you take from where it started to where we are now, has a lot of great episodes. I mean, for me, like seasons like 2, 3, and 4 really stick out to being good. Like seasons 2, 3, and 4 are really good. Season 1 is pretty solid too, but it has some ups and downs. But 2, 3, and 4 of Adventure Time are all great seasons of the show. And all pretty consistent episodes. Season 5, the first half I enjoy, but the second half kind of takes a little bit of a dip. And then I felt like season 6 and 7 were just, I don't know, man. I didn't give a shit. I just I felt just very boring, and I didn't like it. It just felt like it became like uninteresting. A lot of the best creators like Rebecca Sugar and even Pendleton Ward, who stepped down, who demoted himself, but Rebecca Sugar and a bunch of other great writers and creators that are part of the show left and did their own stuff, and the show definitely took a hit because of that. I do feel like the most recent seasons 8 and 9, and I guess 10, which is it 10 or is it 9? It's kind of weird. I don't know. But 8, 9, and 10, I think are all, especially 8. I think that's the one with the islands, right? 8 and the ones with the islands, and 9 is elements, right? Yeah. So 8 and 9 are both really, really solid seasons. I really like those seasons a lot, and then the newest one's pretty decent too. It has some hits and miss, but this is a very hit and miss show. Like an episode when you start it, well, I feel like by the end of it, I'm like, that was incredible, or oh, that was awful, or that was just not interesting. Like it definitely is very hit and miss, but when it hits, and I think this show really just needs to be thanked for how it definitely has. This show changed cartoons forever, and it's a shame that like Cartoon Network and many other like people and outlets don't really give the show enough credit. Like I don't see like Cartoon Network pushing the show anymore, and it's a shame because the show is what definitely kept them prospering. I mean, even other channels like Nickelodeon and Disney made shows to replicate the magic the show created, and the show really took off, and this is one of the more popular shows on the list. But I used to see Adventure Time shirts everywhere and everyone talking about it, but no one's really talking about it anymore. I think it's because it lost its magic, and Cartoon Network sort of stopped promoting it, which is a shame. It's a shame because I think that show deserves a lot of credit, and this will go down as I think one of the greatest cartoons of all time. It's not my personal favorite. I mean it's number 6 on the list of this generation cartoons. I love this show, but I wouldn't say it's up there with my favorite. But I think this is probably top 4, maybe even top 3, maybe even number 1 most important cartoon of all time. Children's cartoon of all time for sure. This changed cartoons forever, and I think in the future this is gonna be like a cult classic. I think this will be looked at like down like 10 years from now or like 20 years from now. This will be looked back as like a cult classic and a very important cartoon that will be praised for how good it is. So, and it should be. So it's Adventure Time. All right, it's what it is. All right, number 5. What's number 5? Well, this actually aired on the same time as Adventure Time, and I think it also had an effect on on cartoons. But I actually enjoy this show more than Adventure Time. I think this show is very solid, and it is a regular show. It's a regular show. I do want to preface this saying that I actually have never seen the last season of this show, or regular show in space, which I heard was I think I heard pretty good things about it. So I haven't seen it. So I know I know maybe some people would say you have to see all of it to put it on the list, but I've seen every other season of it, and I watched and I kind of followed the show since it came out. J.D. Quintel is a great showrunner and just a great, and I love his style. I love his style of humor and his style of animation. He has a new show. What the fuck is it called? I don't remember. I gotta look it up. It's coming to like, I don't know if it's come out yet or not. Let me check something really quick. I gotta figure that out. One sec. J.D. Quintel. Fuck, man. Give me a second. I gotta know. Oh, Close Enough. That's what it is. Yeah. I don't know if that's come out yet. I gotta keep an eye out for that. But I haven't seen any of that yet if it has come out yet. But Regular Show is a great show, phenomenal show. This show also borders the lines of whether it's a kid's show or not. It is though, and it's on Cartoon Network. It definitely targets kids in some way. But this show is, I think, probably the funniest show on this list. Honestly, this show just like the bizarre nature of it and just the storytelling of it just cracks me up every fucking time. Like I absolutely am in love with this show. Although I wouldn't say this is the the best show ever, but I would say it's definitely one of the most consistent shows, and it just, I mean, it follows a formula, you know what I mean? But another show that follows like that formula is like Phineas and Ferb, and I find Phineas and Ferb to like not be that funny, or like just not be that consistently good. But regular show on the other hand actually feels like it has actual character and style into it, and I feel like it follows that formula of like, normal things are normal, and then like 2/3 of the way through the episode, they become absurd and not normal. But I feel like that I don't know. I feel like they take it to degrees that are interesting. Also, the characters are actually interesting. There's actually some depth to each character. They have like their strengths and their flaws and their problems and their weaknesses and shit. But I feel like as the show went on, it got less concerned with having that structure, and every episode just got like there was some episodes just start off being fucking weird as shit. And yeah, man, I love it. I love the bizarre nature of it. I think it's a great show. I think this will also be a cult classic like Adventure Time. And it's a shame that Cartoon Network, I felt like, kind of forgot about this show too and kind of stopped promoting it. And when the last 2 seasons, I knew of Adventure Time in Space because it was not Adventure Time, sorry, Adventure Time in Space, but no, regular show in space. I knew about that because I followed it. But like I felt like it wasn't advertised enough, and not many people even knew that the show ended. And I feel like, again, I saw a lot of people wearing these shirts in the early 2010s, but now not so much. Maybe because it's over, I understand that. But I feel like, I don't know, like Regular Show and Adventure Time are like 2 of the most important cartoons for Cartoon Network and cartoons in general in the past, like, maybe almost ever. But I felt like they were largely ignored near the end of their life cycle, which is a shame. It's definitely a shame. But we're going to move on to number 4 now. This is the only show that I guess Young Justice and Adventure Time are kind of going on, although Adventure Time's ending very soon. It's basically over, and Young Justice is just getting picked back up. But this show is also ending like Adventure Time. It was actually confirmed yesterday at the show. It was kind of confirmed a while ago, but it was like confirmed once again that the show is ending it's on its last season. And this show is, it was hard for me to say if I like this show more than regular show. Like, this show and regular show are kind of equal on footing for me. I enjoy both of these shows a lot, but I ultimately decided to go with this show because I think this show has, I think regular show, I like Quintel's style more. I think it's probably funnier, at least from a writing perspective. I think this show's animation is worth praising alone, and I think how beautiful this show looks contrasted with the sort of like bizarre nature of the show, I think is good. I also think this is one of the funniest shows on this list too, and that is The Amazing World of Gumball. I love this show, man. Just the CG sort of style mixed with the hand-drawn 2D style and real life characters, and just like the array of characters in this show is incredible. And I think the show is so goddamn funny. And I think it uses this animation so well to have visual humor and visual gags. I don't think this show is praised enough, man. I feel like the show's not talked about enough. And I feel like when people talk about their favorite cartoons, or recent cartoons, it's always like number like 10 or 9 or 8. It's sometimes on there, honorable mention. But man, this is one of my favorites. Honestly, though, like I can't really say there's anything bad about this show. I don't think I've ever seen a bad episode of this show. I don't think it does. I think the show does a lot of groundbreaking things when it comes to animation and humor and comedy, but it's a comedy show. You know what I mean? It's not meant to have deep themes. You know what I mean? It's meant to be something that you watch and go, oh, that's fucking funny. And this show sure as hell accomplishes that. And yeah, I don't really have too much to say about this show. I think regular show is better. It's probably a better written show and has characters with actual like character, I guess, motivation and themes. But I think when it comes to just being as absurd and honestly beautiful and this sort of encapsulates cartoons for me. I love how this does that. It's almost tied. I almost want to tie regular show and Gumball because I like them for 2 very different reasons and they're very close on my list. But I don't know, man. I like both of these shows quite a bit, and I think I'm just gonna say I like Gumball slightly more just because of its animation. But that's really all I have to say about that. So even though that's called Amazing World of Gumball, I feel like now is when the amazing shows start. So like the last shows, Bravest Warriors, Young Justice, Adventure Time, Regular Show, Amazing World of Gumball. I love all those shows. I think Adventure Time, Regular Show are very important in cartoon history and hold a very, very special place in my heart. And Amazing World of Gumball I absolutely love. But if you were to ask me what my favorite cartoons of all time are and what cartoons I think are amazing and will stand the test of time, has some of the best cartoons. I wouldn't say any of those are on my list. I wouldn't say Amazing World of Gumball. I wouldn't say Regular Show, Adventure Time 4. As much as I love those shows, I wouldn't say they're the best cartoons of all times. But these next three, I think, hold a place. I think some of these cartoons will either always be one of my favorite cartoons, and I think some of the best of all time, or they will either be like runner-up. And number 3 is going to be very controversial, I feel like, a little bit. I mean, I feel like a lot of people generally like this show, but this show gets a lot of criticism, negative criticism, and I'm all for critiquing shows. I think all of these shows I can say something negative about, and this show definitely I can think of some negative things about it, but I feel like the show gets a lot more hate than it deserves. I really do, and I really enjoy this show for what it is, and it's actually one of my favorites of all time, seriously. And it's a shame because it kind of gets some hate, and it's been like a most recent thing to really hate on this show and talk about how, like, not even like just say like, oh, here's the flaws of the show and here's where it could do better, but just say how the show is. Like, I hear a lot of people saying the show is garbage and shitty and awful, and I completely disagree. I think this show is really good, and that is The Legend of Korra. Now, I know there's a lot to critique about this show, and I know it's not as good as Avatar: Last Airbender. Sure, whatever. I think Avatar: Last Airbender is probably the best cartoon of all time, but whatever. Maybe it doesn't stand up to that, but I think this show has some incredible moments, and overall is a very, very solid show. Now, I will say, Season 2, The Legend of Korra, Season 2, can go fuck off. I hate that season. I think that season is very bland. I think it's just the story, the villains, the characters, just, oh, God. It's all, I think if somebody only watched Season 2 of the show, could be like, oh, I see why everyone hates the show. The show does suck, but I think you gotta watch the other 4 seasons. Season 1 has its ups and downs and definitely has some lulls, especially like in the middle. But I think Season 1 is pretty solid from beginning to end. But I think Season 3 and 4 are both incredible. The show does feel like 3 different shows. Like Season 1 feels like its own thing. I feel like if the show was just Season 1, which originally it was going to be, it would still be solid. I wouldn't say it would be my top. It'd probably be like number 8, maybe, but it'd probably be my top. It'd probably be my top 10. Yeah, Legend of Korra would definitely be my top 10. But seasons 3 and 4, I think, are what makes the show incredible. I do think Season 3 is better than Season 4, and I think Season 4 has its problems. I love the ending of the show. I know a lot of people don't, and some people think Season 4 is one of the worst ones, but I like Season 4 a lot. And I think Season 3 is absolutely the best season. I think Season 3 of Legend of Korra is one of the best seasons of animated children's television ever. Like, seriously, like I do believe that. I don't think it's as good as like Season 2 or even Season 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I think it like is on par. I think it's better. I think, I'm gonna say this is gonna be controversial, I think Season 3 of Legend of Korra is better than Season 3 of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like I think it's close. I don't think it's I don't think it destroys it. I think it's a close race. But I think I enjoy Legend of Korra Season 3 better. I can watch Season 3 of Legend of Korra like over and over and over, like maybe like forever. Like I fucking love it. I think the characters, I think that the villains are really, really good. I think the motivations, the arcs, the new characters, the places they visit are all super interesting, and the pacing of the season is very solid, unlike Season 2. And even Season 4 has some pacing problems, but Season 3, perfect. I think it's almost perfect. Like, I'm serious. I know a lot of people might be shocked that I say that, but I really do believe that. And I think this show is there's a lot of things incredible. I think the fight scenes are incredible. The animation in Season 1 and 3 is pretty solid. 2 and 4 not so much, but I think the animation can be good and the fight scenes can be great. The writing and character building, especially with characters like Korra and Tenzin, I think are something to be praised. I know a lot of people don't like Korra as a character or as an avatar. I disagree to that. I think especially in Season 3 and even the beginning of Season 4, we see her sort of go through a lot of shit, but she grows from it and changes from it and becomes a better person. And we see how like she goes from interacting with like Bolin and Mako to really bonding with Asami. I really like how the show deals with that and how she just grows as a character, and I really enjoy it. And I think this show really needs to be praised more, and I understand why people it can be critiqued, man. I understand the critiques, but I feel like when someone says this show is trash and there's nothing good about it and it's god awful, I just have to disagree. I think the show really is one of the better shows of this generation, and probably my top 10 favorite cartoons of all time, probably up there. So I love this show, and I know it's not as good as Avatar, and I know it's not perfect, and I know it definitely has problems, and I just said I hate Season 2. I think it's a garbage season, but I think the show overall really is something special, and I have to say, I think from a writing perspective, it's pretty solid, and from a character perspective, it's really solid. So maybe not as solid as Avatar, sure, but just because it's not as good as the best cartoon ever doesn't mean it's not good. So fuck you, it's great, I love it. Legend of Korra. All right, number 2. Choosing between number 2 and number 1 is hard. So number 2, I think this is the most consistent show on this list. I think while Legend of Korra has its problems and its lulls and its low points, I think this, my number 1 show absolutely does as well. And I've seen a lot of people saying that show's garbage, which I'll call you out in a second. But no, this show I think is probably the best cartoon of this generation. I think this is the best cartoon. Okay, I will say that. I think this is the best cartoon. It's not my favorite though. It's my second favorite, but it's pretty damn close. This is in my top like 3 cartoons of all time. I fucking love this show, and I think it's the most consistent show on this list, and that is Gravity Falls. I fucking love this show. Goddamn, like I think there might be a few episodes in season, like the middle of season 1, like Boss Mabel and some of those episodes I'm not the biggest fan of. But besides, like, I don't think there's a bad episode of this show. I really don't think so. And I think season 2, like, goddamn, like the first episode of season 2 to like episode 12 of season 2 is like one of the best stretches of consistent good cartoon episodes in a row. Like, goddamn, like episode 10 and 11, like the Northwest Mansion episode is one of the best of the show, and then it probably is the best of the show. And then right after that, you have Not What He Seems, which is a great episode. Like, just so many good episodes of the show, and I think this show so consistent. The animation is incredible. The voice acting is great. The writing is insanely good, and I just think this show has one of the best styles, honestly, and just from a story progression, character progression, and everything about it is one of the best shows, one of the best cartoons ever. Like, honestly, this show needs to be praised because it's so goddamn good. Yeah, I just think this is I think this is probably the best cartoon to come out of the past 10 years. I really do. But it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite. I have one more show I like more than this, which I'll get to in a second. But let me praise this show a little bit more. I think the sort of like build, like the show builds up to something. Like, I'm not gonna spoil what it is halfway through season 2, and the building up to it is like starts off pretty slow, but by the end of the first season, it just like in the beginning of by the end of the first and beginning of the second season, it just like kicks off and just starts like revealing shit episode after episode after episode, and builds up to this perfect climax of the show, and it has a really good wind down into the finale. And just again, the characters, the villains, the mysteries of the show, all incredible. I love it a lot. So it's one of the best shows. And if someone said this is the best cartoon of all time, I probably would argue that Avatar is the best cartoon of all time. But I would say this one is very close behind that. It really is very solid from beginning to end. But number 1 though, this isn't the best cartoons list. All right, we're not talking about what the best. I'm talking about my favorite. These are the ones that have affected me the most. And the reason why Gravity Falls isn't number 1, while I love it, I don't think it resonates with me on an emotional level. Like, when I think about shows that like resonate with me and like have effects on me emotionally, Gravity Falls isn't one of the first ones I think of. I mean, maybe it has its moments, but it's definitely not one of the first ones I think of. But this show is probably the first show I think of, and it's why it's my favorite cartoon, not only of this generation, but probably number 1, maybe number 2 of all time, with Avatar probably being number 1. This one is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. I fucking love this show. However, I said Gravity Falls is one of the most consistent shows of all time. This one's not. This is not a consistent show. There's a good like 7 episodes. There's like a good period of like episodes that are meh. There's like 7 episodes in a row that will just suck, and then there's like 10 episodes in a row that would be all really great. Like, it has its like streaks of goodness and badness and madness and just and oh, that was awful. But like overall, like I feel like the highs definitely outweigh the lows of this show, though I could see why people can critique this show. I would also too say this is a show definitely not perfect, like I just said. It has a lot of low points, but I think the high points is really is what sticks with me and really has an effect on me, and that's Steven Universe. So, not a shock. I just did a Steven Universe review of the last like arc, Heart of the Crystal Gem. So go check that out on my YouTube channel, on my Twitch, if you want to see what I thought about that. But not talking about spoilers. I just want to say this show is incredible. I just think the show does so much right. Like, where do I even start? I will say the first like 20 episodes of the show kind of sucks, and I've got a few of my friends into the show, but there are a few more friends that I want to get into the show, but it's really hard for me to tell them like, hey, you gotta watch Steven Universe. Just the first 20 episodes are kind of meh, and some of them are really really bad. Like, and they're just like, why would I care then? And it's like, yeah, good point. You kind of gotta suffer through 20 bad episodes to get to when the show gets really really good, and that kind of sucks. But you should do it. And then when they say I don't want to do that, it's like I can't even really blame them. You know what I mean? This is a show it's I feel like kind of hard to get into. And I actually watched this show when it first came out. And I actually literally watched like the first like 20 episodes. And by episode like 21, I said, I can't do this anymore. And I stopped watching the show because I didn't like it. And then everyone's like, this show's amazing. And I went back to it, watched the 20 episodes again, and almost quit again. But stuck with it and watched like a couple more episodes. And then I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. And I fell in love with it. I think season 1 is, especially the second half of season 1, actually really only the second half of season 1 is incredible. Like, I could think of like Warp Tour, Rose's Scabbard, Lion 3, Mirror Gem, The Return, Jailbreak, Full Disclosure. All those episodes are like incredible. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, like there's so many incredible episodes in there, and there's a lot of consistent Space Race too. A lot of consistent a lot of. It's like a good stretch of like really really good episodes. Season 2 on the other, season 2 has some low points, but especially the second half, the Parrot Out redemption arc is a great arc. Season 3, I think a lot of people don't really like the beginning and the end too much, but I really enjoy it, especially the Amethyst arc. Season 4 is probably the weakest season, and there's a couple good arcs in there, but probably the weakest season is 4 and 5, the most recent one, which is just either has ended or just about to end. It's not really known as of now. Has had like one pretty bad arc, but besides that, like had some really good episodes at the beginning, and especially the last 5, which I again just reviewed. I thought were all really really good episodes. The last 8 or 9 episodes of the show have been really really good. So the show's kind of getting back in the swing of things. I just love the show, man, and you should definitely check the show out. And it's my number one. It's my number one. So those are my 8 favorite children's cartoons of the 2000s. I could go more in the Steven Universe, but I kind of already did, so you can check out that discussion. I can talk about the emotional resonance, the progressive nature of it, and how much it has affected me emotionally and not mentally, but emotionally, how the show has really affected me emotionally. But you can go check that out on my Twitch or YouTube if you want to watch that review. But I love these are my 8 favorite children's cartoons. Sorry if this video was a little rushed. Sorry if I didn't write a script. I just kind of rambled and I'm stuttering all over the place. But those are my thoughts. Those are just my raw thoughts. Tell me what your favorite cartoons are. If you agree, disagree, go check out my YouTube channel if you're watching this on Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube, I don't really post too much original content here, so go to my Twitch channel. Go check it out. Check out what I do. Check out what I did. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for my recent streams. I have some really big and cool streams coming up, like 400 and some Minecraft streams. So please go check them out. I put a lot of work into them, and they're pretty decent. They're much better than this shitty video. But thank you so much for watching, listening, whatever. Tell me your favorite cartoons. Tell me how I'm wrong. Do all you want to do. I don't care. I'm out of here. See you later.